Governor, Honorable Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh, Honorable Speaker of Andhra Pradesh, eminent guests on the dais, and all of you who are participating in the first ever conclave of the National Women's Parliament here at Amravati. I'm particularly happy to share the dais with eminent women who've been trailblazers in their fields, be it journalism, law, or public services. These women have scaled heights that very few women have attained before. And I'm sure, listening to their experiences and ideas, all of you will find immense practical value. All of you, young, bright-eyed women here today, need to be inspired. I think Justice Rohini Garu, who is the first woman Chief Justice of the Delhi High Court, and all the other Telugu women here would actually agree with me when I say that there couldn't be a more appropriate location for this conclave than Amravati. You see, ladies and gentlemen, this area where the metropolis of Amravati is taking shape has long ago been the city of the famous emperor Satakarni. Our emperor venerated womanhood, so much so that instead of the traditional practice of taking his father's name, he actually took his mother's name. He called himself Gautami Putra Satakarni, meaning the son of Mother Gautami. This glorious tradition of giving women their fair share was continued even in modern times by one of the best known chief ministers of our state, late Shri N.T. Rama Rao Garu. During his tenure, Annagaru, as he was lovingly known, brought forth a law for the first time in the country giving equal rights to women in ancestral property. He also envisioned and established the first ever exclusive women's university called the Padmavati Mahila University. He stressed a lot on importance of education for women. Substantial presence of women in various local bodies is a direct contribution of Annagaru, who introduced reservation for women in the local bodies, another first of its kind in the country. This precedent, set by Shri NTR, has been carried forward by our Honorable Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh. I'm proud to say that under his leadership, about 1 million, yes, 1 million self-help groups of women with about 1 crore members are being nurtured and promoted. This is the largest in any state in the country, period. As a direct result, women belonging to the underprivileged sections of the society have become the fulcrum of economic growth in the state. And the living example was the stalls that a lot of women belonging to these groups have put up outside. It was extremely empowering to see all these handicrafts outside. Another extraordinary initiative, which is really close to my heart, is 1/3 reservation for women in professional education. As a direct result, women are able to dominate sectors such as financial services, healthcare, and information technology, an industry that's been brought into light by a chief minister. Ms. Sagarika Ghosh had mentioned that Andhra Pradesh has generated the most feminist chief ministers, and I couldn't agree with her more. Since I'm in the presence of eminent journalists, in the interest of full disclosure, I must mention that I am the proud granddaughter and the daughter-in-law of these personalities. Clearly, women empowerment starts at home. In our home, the women have always been encouraged to pursue their passion. Undoubtedly, India has been blessed with a number of visionary leaders. Yet, we cannot close our eyes to the disparities and anomalies that exist as far as women's issues are concerned. We elected women heads of government and state much before many developed countries, and the US presidential election is an example by itself. Yet, equal pay for equal work is not a given in India, despite stringent laws. A recent study actually says that only 5% of working women in India make it to senior leadership positions in the corporate sector, compared to the global average of 20%. Why is this so? These are just some of the many challenges facing young women today in India. Physical abuse and mental abuse, especially in the form of cyberbullying, are becoming extremely common. My fellow speakers here today, especially the women, have dealt with many issues such as these. They've not only challenged the stereotypes, but have also successfully overcome obstacles and penetrated the glass ceiling that often prevents women from rising to their full potential. And I congratulate all of you for that. It's been enlightening to learn their secrets of success. I'm eagerly looking forward to hearing more. As far as my vision is concerned, I strongly believe that self-help is the key. Rather than waiting around endlessly for someone to quote-unquote help us, we women should take matters into our own hands and help ourselves. We can do this only through education. Education empowers and liberates. Education widens and gives more exposure and makes us aware of our potential. Education also enables us to be more effective in our chosen fields. I'm personally involved in a lot of education initiatives, and I strongly believe in the power of that. All of you young ladies out there, take a good look at the ladies on the dais. We are all decision makers in our chosen fields, and we wouldn't be at these positions of responsibility and authority today if we didn't have education under our caps. Success has many components, and education plays a very important role. On the professional front, Heritage Foods is a major player in the dairy industry, and we touch about 15 lakh households on a daily basis. The dairy industry is a major employer of women, and that's why I'm extremely proud to be a part of it. This industry enables women to generate a regular income and become earners for the family. It pushes them to become efficient time managers, as they also have to take care of their families. This enhances the status of women automatically and makes them a very critical part of decision making when it comes to their families as well as their communities. My point is that dairy industry at least provides a welcome first opportunity to women on their path to fuller emancipation. And we in India should be encouraging various such industries that give a low-hanging fruit for women to be empowered. So to summarize, we women don't have to wait for someone to come and help us. Our time is now. So let's go out there and take it. Education is extremely important in order to take proper decisions. Time and time again, women have proven to be more successful than men in many fields. So let us work together towards social emancipation and empowerment of women. It would be a gigantic waste of resources if we choose to ignore this problem that women are going through, as they ultimately constitute half the world's population. This is not rocket science, this is just common sense. Before concluding, I would like to remind you of the old adage, seeing is believing. I often meet young, talented girls who can do much better than what they're doing, but just don't go and grab it because they're women. I'm very pleased to note that the organizers of this event have allocated sufficient time for mentor-mentee sessions. I would evaluate the success of this parliament by the number of young women in whom we can light a spark of ambition to be the best at what they can possibly be. Remember, one PV Sindhu becomes a champion, a whole generation of young girls get inspired to take up sport. So all of you high achievers, please take the time to mentor young women and make them successful. The sisterhood truly needs you. I thank the organizers for giving me the opportunity and I wish the conclave all the best. ధన్యవాదములు.